Okay, sorry. I just wanted to see it. So the past 2 weeks, we have been in this series called Rebellious, and we've been talking about giftings and callings. And so now this week, we get to talk about serving, stuff that we get to do with those giftings and callings. So each of us, as we know, is wired differently. God made each and every one of us unique. And so we have a unique gifting in us from God. And with that gifting, we can use it to serve others and help them and meet needs in their lives that might not be met otherwise. And that's really cool because that's something that Jesus shows us and something that we are told that we should do as well. So serving can look like a lot of different things. I personally have been serving in the church itself. You don't have to serve just in the church, by the way. Served in the church since I was in second grade, which I don't know how old you are in second grade, but that's been a long time. That's been like all of my life, basically. And when I first started out serving, I was helping in the children's ministry, leading worship, not singing, thankfully. I can't sing, but I did dancing. And so as I grew up, I slowly found different ways to serve. I started, once I got into middle school, I started helping with the elementary schoolers, teaching them about Jesus in small groups. And then I started serving when we had the Vestal Church. I used to serve anywhere from helping with like the babies and the toddlers to helping even like the middle and high schoolers. So as I grew up, I started learning more and more about how God had wired me and the best ways for me to help others understand the story of Jesus. And so I learned quickly that I was a very people-y person. I am not a very, like, I used to be a behind-the-scenes kind of gal, but now I'm like, no, let me talk directly to people. And so over time, it changed. It changed from me helping behind the scenes with like tech to actually going in front of people and talking now. Like, this is something that I get to do and help you guys understand different concepts about Christianity and Jesus and the Bible and all that. And it's really fun. But I would have never done this years ago because I didn't understand the way that I was gifted. I didn't understand where God was leading me. And so I want this to help you understand or even start the idea of what it is that you are called to, where God has gifted you so that you can best reach other people and serve them in whatever facet it may be. So many times we can serve in the church, but many times we can also serve others outside of the church. So one example of when I helped someone outside of church was I had this friend who had a really rough home life. Their like family was broken and it was very hard. And at one point she calls me at like 8:00 saying that her dad made her go outside in a severe thunderstorm to walk the dog and that she didn't feel safe at home and that she needed somewhere to go. And she called me because I was able to be a safe space for her. I was able to give her something that she needed, a solid place where she could go and she didn't feel like she was okay. And that is one way I got to serve her, by one, being a friend, and two, being a safe spot. And now that has nothing to do with church. She didn't go to church. We talked about Jesus sometimes, but we don't just serve at church. Service is a way that is a thing that just goes throughout our entire lives. When we learn about how Jesus served and how we are called to serve one another, it should radiate throughout everything that we do. And that seems crazy because sometimes serving, you might be like, well, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? What do I get out of it? But that's the thing. It's not about what we get out of it. It's about how we can help others. Because I want to just read 1 Peter 4:10. And it says, God has given each of you a gift from his great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. I don't think I could say it any clearer than that, but it's clear that we are wired differently. We are wired uniquely, and that's clear throughout the Bible. But what we need to do is figure out how to use what God has given us to help those around us. Because Jesus, when he was going on teaching, he didn't just teach. He healed people. He fed 5,000 people with some bread and 2 fish and 5 loaves. You see, that was a way that God could help, by meeting needs that needed to be met. And we can do similar things, not just handing out food. It can be being a friend to someone who really is going through a hard time. It can mean going and picking up a friend from a bad circumstance. But it can also mean helping at church. And one way that we're starting the conversation about getting you guys plugged into serving, which I think is really fun. It's really exciting. I love to serve people. I love helping people if I can. And so we want to find ways that you can explore what it is that you are called to, things that God has gifted you uniquely to do. And so I know I think Joey might be talking about this next week, but we are planning a way for you guys to get involved, for you guys not to just come to church, but to serve like Jesus did. So one thing for sure is that we have a clear example from Jesus' life about how to serve. In Matthew 20:28, Jesus says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." You see, Jesus, who has all the power and authority in the entire world, he could do anything he wanted. He could make himself exalted as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. But he took time to serve others. It was extremely important to him that those around him had their needs met, that people were reached with love and graciousness in order to help them understand God's love through them. And you can do that by also helping your parents. I know, that's something we don't like to hear, but sometimes, if you see your parents having a rough day and instead of being asked to do chores, maybe you go and do them without being asked. It's little things that we do for other people that we don't do because we want to get the recognition, but we do because we just want to help. And in those moments, we're serving and we're showing the love that comes through us from Jesus by following his example of how to serve others. And so I'm talking a lot about serving, and that's just the key thing that we are called to do. It's one of those key parts of who we are. And as someone who has served my whole life, I had a time where I went to college and wasn't plugged into a church, and it's the weirdest thing. I went to church, but I wasn't serving, and I felt like this part of me was missing because I wasn't able to help in the best way I could. And I saw needs that needed to be filled at church or even in the community, and I just wasn't able to. And so being able to serve brings joy to you because you get to see other people have holes filled, have needs met. Or even if you're teaching or helping in a small group with kids, you get to help them understand little parts of the Bible and little parts of who Jesus is. And for me, that's the fun part. I love helping people make connections. And so the question comes, why aren't you serving? What is stopping you from helping others? Say there's a kid at school who looks like they need a friend. What's stopping you from going over and being their friend or saying hello? What's stopping you from helping someone who dropped their books at school? Or when you're out in the community, what's stopping you from helping someone who looks like they need help? Is it fear? Is it the idea that, oh, yeah, no one does that? Like, that's not for me. But the thing is, we shouldn't be afraid. We should be willing to go out and help people to a point where, you're not hurting yourself or anything like that or draining yourself. But when we go out and show love through service, we see people connect that there's something more to you. Because most people look out for themselves only. They'll do something that benefits them. But that's not what Jesus does. That's not what we're called to do. We're called to go out and serve, even if it doesn't necessarily benefit us. So, what's stopping you from serving? Where is it that you feel that God is leading you? Where has God gifted you particularly? And how can you use that to help those around you? Whether it's at church, at home, at school, or when you're just out and about. So those are the main questions I want you to ponder as you go into small groups. But I'm going to pray for you guys, okay? Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to these students about what it means to serve, not only you, but those around them. I pray that you help them to really understand how you have wired them specifically to help those around them, whether it's by being on a team and helping and just being kind, or it's helping their parents at home with something when life gets crazy. I pray that you give them opportunities to see where it is that they can serve others and you. And I pray that you help them to find whatever it is that's stopping them from serving others. God, we love you, and we just thank you for this opportunity to just learn more about who you are and what you've called us to do. And it's in your name I pray. Amen.